here to tell y'all right now, like, I am tired. Like, when I say tired, like, I am burnt out completely. And it just hit me literally this morning. Like, I don't know. Mind y'all.
It's 1:50 in the morning on June 14th, 2022. Taylor Starks is working the late shift at a restaurant in East Point, Michigan. She's 18 years old, exhausted, but she needs this job. It pays for everything she and her baby boy, Kyrie, need to survive. Then her phone buzzes. A photo appears. It's Kyrie. His face is swollen. One eye completely shut. The other barely open. Before she can think, her phone rings. It's Kimora, the woman from upstairs who's watching Kyrie tonight. He ate S0ap, Kimora says with a very stressed voice. I think it's an allergic reaction. Taylor's heart stops. She grabs her keys and runs to her car. The drive home feels endless. Every second is torture. She bursts through her apartment door at 2:05 a.m. What she sees stops her cold. Kyrie is on the floor. His little body is jerking violently. Seizure after seizure. His eyes are rolling back. He's not responding to her voice. Taylor drops to her knees beside him, shaking, screaming his name. She pulls out her phone with trembling hands and dials 911. The operator's voice asks questions, but Taylor can barely speak. Her baby is dying right in front of her, and she doesn't understand why. Kimora is there too, standing nearby, repeating the same story. S0ap, allergic reaction, just an accident. And in that moment, Taylor believes her, because Kimora is her friend. Kimora lives right upstairs. Kimora has a baby of her own. Why wouldn't she believe her? But what Taylor didn't know in that moment of panic and trust was that the woman she called her friend had just murdered her son. The S0ap story was a lie. The allergic reaction never happened. And the next 8 days would reveal a horror that no mother should ever have to face. Welcome to True Crime Cave, where we dive deep into the darkest corners of real-life crime and share with you the hidden details that others choose to hide. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a case. Please consider liking this video as well. It helps us reach more people who care about justice for victims like the one we're covering today. To understand how an 18-year-old mother's act of trust became every parent's worst nightmare, we need to go back 3 months to the day Taylor Starks thought she had finally found safety. March 2022. 3 months before that nightmare. Taylor Starks is standing in front of an apartment building on Little Mack Avenue in Roseville, Michigan. She's holding her son, Kyrie, on her hip. He's 22 months old, barely 2 years into his life. She looks up at the building and takes a breath. This is it, a fresh start. At 18 years old, Taylor is doing this alone. No mother to call when things get hard. No father to help pay the bills. No family safety net to catch her when she falls. And Kyrie's father? He's being rotting in jail even before Kyrie was born. So it's just Taylor and Kyrie against the world. Most teenagers her age are finishing high school, going prom, thinking about college. Taylor is signing a lease, budgeting for groceries, and figuring out how to keep the lights on. She works long shifts at a restaurant in East Point. The pay isn't great, but it's enough. Barely. Every dollar matters. Rent is due on the 1st. Diapers don't buy themselves. Formula costs more than she expected. And childcare? That's a whole other problem she hasn't figured out yet. But standing there in March, looking at this apartment complex, Taylor feels something she hasn't felt in a while. Hope. This place could be good for them. Safe. Stable. A real home where Kyrie can grow up. She unlocks the door to their new apartment and steps inside. It's small, but it's theirs. She sets Kyrie down, and he toddles around the empty living room, curious and bright-eyed. And Kyrie is so bright. Even at 22 months old, he can already count to 5. Most kids his age are barely stringing 2 words together, but Kyrie? He's sharp. He's special. Taylor knows it. Everyone who meets him knows it. He's her whole world. Her reason for everything. The reason she works doubles when her body screams for rest. The reason she skips meals to make sure he eats. The reason she keeps going when everything feels impossible. She watches him explore their new home, and for the first time in a long time, she smiles. Maybe things are finally looking up, but what Taylor doesn't know yet is that danger is already living in this building, just one floor above her head. A few days after moving in, Taylor meets her upstairs neighbor. Her name is Kimora Hodges. She's 21 years old, just 3 years older than Taylor. She lives in the apartment directly above with her boyfriend and her daughter, who's around the same age as Kyrie. When they first talk in the hallway, Kimora seems friendly, easy to talk to. She smiles when she sees Kyrie toddling around. She mentions her own daughter. They exchange the usual pleasantries neighbors do. But then something clicks. 2 young mothers, 2 toddlers, living in the same building. It feels like fate. Taylor doesn't have friends nearby. She doesn't have family to lean on. And here's someone right upstairs who understands what it's like to have a baby. Someone who gets the sleepless nights, the tantrums, the constant exhaustion. Someone who might actually understand her life. Over the next few weeks, they start talking more. Quick conversations in the stairwell. Small talk when they run into each other outside. Kimora mentions she's home a lot. Taylor mentions she works a lot. The idea forms naturally. I could watch Kyrie sometime if you need. Kimora offers one day. Taylor's relief is immediate. Childcare is expensive. Babysitters are hard to find. And most importantly, you can't just trust anyone with your child. But Kimora? She's a mother herself. She has her own daughter. She lives right upstairs. If anything happens, Taylor is only seconds away. It seems perfect, so Taylor says yes. And for the next 2 months, Kimora babysits Kyrie on and off. Sometimes for a few hours while Taylor works an evening shift. Sometimes longer. It becomes routine, normal, convenient. Kyrie never complains. He seems fine every time Taylor picks him up. No bruises, no tears, no red flags. Just a sleepy toddler ready to go home. Taylor starts to trust Kimora, not just as a babysitter, but as a friend, someone she can count on, someone who's making her impossible life just a little bit easier. What Taylor doesn't see is what's happening behind Kimora's closed door. The frustration building, the resentment growing, the cracks forming beneath the surface of that friendly smile. Because while Taylor is working those long shifts, believing her son is safe, Kimora Hodges is reaching a breaking point. And on June 13th, 2022, that breaking point would shatter everything. June 13th, 2022. Early evening. Taylor kisses Kyrie goodbye and heads upstairs to Kimora's apartment. It's just another shift. Just another night. She hands her son over, thanks Kimora, and leaves for work. She has no idea this is the last time she'll see him healthy. Hours pass. Taylor is busy taking orders, serving tables, cleaning up spills. Then her phone starts buzzing. Text messages from Kimora. He's being sneaky. Taylor reads it between customers. She's confused. Sneaky? He's 22 months old. What does that even mean? Another text comes through. You're too soft on him. Taylor feels a knot form in her stomach. The tone is off. Kimora sounds irritated, frustrated, but Taylor is at work. She can't leave. She types back something quick, probably defensive, try to understand what's going on. Then another message. I don't want to babysit him anymore. Taylor stares at her phone. Her heart starts racing. This doesn't feel right, but she's stuck at work, miles away, and she doesn't know what to do. She tries to stay calm. Maybe Kyrie is just being fussy. Maybe Kimora is having a bad night. Kids can be difficult. She tells herself it's fine. But it's not fine. Upstairs in that apartment, something terrible is happening. Somewhere between the early evening and midnight, Kimora Hodges loses control. Kyrie is just a baby, defenseless, small, helpless, and Kimora hurts him. The medical evidence would later reveal the horrifying truth. Kyrie suffered blunt force trauma to his head. He was thrown against a wall with enough force to cause devastating injuries. He was violently shaken. His tiny brain slammed against his skull, causing bleeding between his brain and the bone. Both of his eyes hemorrhaged from the trauma. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a fall. This was rage. This was violence inflicted on a toddler who couldn't defend himself, couldn't fight back, couldn't even understand why this was happening to him. By the time the violence stopped, Kyrie's small body was broken. His brain was bleeding. His life was slipping away. And Kimora knew it. 1:50 a.m., June 14th. Taylor's phone buzzes again. This time it's a photo. She opens it, and her blood runs cold. It's Kyrie, but his face is swollen, badly swollen. One eye is completely shut. The other is barely open, puffy and distorted. Before she can process what she's seeing, her phone rings. It's Kimora. He ate soap. Kimora says, her voice shaking. I think he's having an allergic reaction. Taylor doesn't question it. She doesn't have time to think. Her baby is hurt. That's all that matters. She grabs her keys, tells her manager she has to go, and runs to her car. The drive home is a blur. Every red light feels like torture. Every mile feels like 100. Her hands are shaking on the steering wheel. Her mind is screaming. She pulls up to the apartment at 2:05 a.m. She sprints up the stairs, her heart pounding in her chest. She fumbles with her keys, hands trembling, and throws open the door. What she sees will haunt her for the rest of her life. Kyrie is on the floor. His little body is jerking violently, seizure after seizure. His eyes are rolling back into his head. He's not crying. He's not making a sound. He's just convulsing. Taylor drops to her knees beside him. She's screaming his name, but he doesn't respond. She pulls out her phone and dials 911. Her voice is shaking so hard she can barely speak. Kimora is there, standing nearby. She's repeating the same story. He ate soap. It's an allergic reaction. Just an accident. And Taylor believes her. Because why wouldn't she? Kimora is her friend. Kimora is a mother. Kimora wouldn't hurt her son. The paramedics arrive within minutes. They scoop Kyrie up and rush him to the hospital. Taylor rides in the ambulance, holding his tiny hand, begging him to hold on. At the hospital, the emergency room doctors take one look at Kyrie and know this is way worse than an allergic reaction. They see the swelling. They see the trauma. They see the blood coming from his ears. This is a head injury, a severe one. They rush him into emergency surgery. Doctors work frantically to relieve the pressure on his brain, but the damage is already done. The bleeding is too extensive. The trauma is too severe. When the doctors finally speak to Taylor, they tell her the truth. Kyrie's injuries are not from soap. They're from blunt force trauma. Someone hurt him. Someone did this to him. Taylor's world shatters. She thinks back to Kimora's story. The soap, the allergic reaction. It was all a lie. Her friend, the woman she trusted, the woman she left her son with. That woman did this. For 8 days, Taylor sits by Kyrie's hospital bed. She watches the machines breathe for him. She holds his hand. She talks to him, even though he can't hear her. She prays for a miracle that won't come. The doctors tell her there's no brain activity. Kyrie is gone. His body is still alive, but her son is already gone. On June 22nd, 2022, at 8:57 in the morning, they turn off the machines. Kyrie is pronounced dead. He was 22 months old. He could count to 5. He had his whole life ahead of him. And as Taylor held her son for the last time, police were already building a case against the woman she trusted. Before we continue with what happened next in the investigation, I want to pause for just a moment. If this case is affecting you the way it's affecting me, please take a second to leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. These stories matter, and your engagement helps us honor victims like Kyrie by keeping their stories alive. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We cover cases like this every week, and I don't want you to miss a single one. All right, let's continue. June 14th, 2022, 7:50 a.m. While Kyrie is fighting for his life in the hospital, Roseville police are already moving. They've seen cases like this before. The injuries don't match the story. A toddler doesn't end up with blunt force trauma and bleeding on the brain from eating soap. 6 hours after Kyrie arrived at the emergency room, officers show up at Kimora Hodges' apartment. They place her under arrest and take her to the Roseville Police Department. She's not going home. Inside the interrogation room, Detective Sergeant Minas Hustalakis and Detective Allison Reeser sit across from Kimora. A camera records everything. It's 10:34 a.m. when they start asking questions. For the next 3 hours, Kimora cries. She's emotional, her voice breaking, tears streaming down her face. But the detectives don't stop. They push. They ask her to explain what happened. They tell her they know the soap story doesn't add up. And slowly, the truth starts to crack through. You all just wanted to say I put my anger on him, Kimora says through tears. That's not what it is. But the detectives keep pressing. They tell her the medical evidence doesn't lie. Kyrie's injuries are severe, life-threatening. Someone hurt him badly. Kimora's crying gets harder. Her words come out broken, choked with sobs. Maybe I hit him too hard, she finally says, but I didn't take my anger out on him. The detectives glance at each other. That's an admission. She just admitted to hitting Kyrie. Hard enough that it might have been too hard. Later in the interview, still sobbing, she says something that will haunt the courtroom. That's not what was supposed to happen. Not what was supposed to happen. As if there was an acceptable outcome to hitting a 22-month-old child. The interrogation continues. The questions get harder. Kimora's answers get shakier. She admits to physically abusing Kyrie. The detectives have it on tape. Then, at 12:22 p.m., nearly 2 hours into questioning, Kimora says something that will change everything. I need a lawyer or something. I need a lawyer. It's clear, unambiguous. She's asking for legal representation. That moment, the decision to keep questioning after she asks for a lawyer, will become the center of a legal battle that drags on for years. But right now, in this room, the detectives believe they have what they need, a confession. As the interrogation wraps up, investigators begin piecing together the rest of the evidence. They pull Kimora's phone records. The text messages she sent to Taylor that night paint a clear picture. He's being sneaky. You're too soft on him. I don't want to babysit him anymore. The frustration building with each message. The anger escalating. Then there's the photo she sent at 1:50 a.m. Kyrie's face, swollen and injured. That photo alone destroys her soap story. No allergic reaction looks like that. The medical findings confirm what the doctors already suspected. Kyrie's injuries are not consistent with ingesting soap. They're consistent with violent trauma, blunt force, shaking, the kind of injuries that come from rage, not accidents. Kimora's story keeps changing. First it was soap, then maybe she hit him, but not hard, then maybe she hit him too hard. Every version contradicts the last. The evidence is overwhelming. On June 14th, Kimora Hodges is formally charged with first-degree child abuse. Her bond is set at $250,000. She sits in the Macomb County Jail, waiting, and then, on June 22nd, Kyrie dies. Everything changes. The next day, June 23rd, 2022, Kimora is brought back into court for arraignment. But this time, the charge is different. Felony murder. The prosecutor explains it clearly. Kyrie died as a direct result of the child abuse Kimora inflicted on him. That makes it murder. First-degree murder. The judge listens to the evidence, the confession, the medical reports, the timeline, and then the judge makes a decision. Bond is denied. Kimora Hodges will remain in jail until trial. No bail, no going home. She will sit behind bars and wait for the legal system to decide her fate. For Taylor, this is a small measure of justice. The woman who killed her son won't walk free. But it doesn't bring Kyrie back. It doesn't undo the nightmare. It doesn't fill the emptiness. But what should have been a straightforward path to justice was about to take a 3-year detour through the appeals system. For most murder cases, the path from arrest to trial is quick. But this case would be different. Kimora's defense attorney, Marielle Lehman, argued that her client's confession should be thrown out. When Kimora said, "I need a lawyer," during the interrogation, the detective should have stopped questioning. But he didn't. Judge Diane Drzinski initially ruled the confession was admissible, but Lehman appealed. On May 30th, 2024, the Michigan Court of Appeals sided with the defense in a 2-1 decision. The final third of Kimora's confession was suppressed, but prosecutor Peter Lucido wasn't backing down. The earlier parts of the confession were still admissible. Kimora had already admitted to hitting Kyrie. That was enough. The case would go to trial. But for Taylor Starks, the wait was agonizing. She was 18 when Kyrie died. By the time the trial began, she was 22. July 2025. The trial lasts 6 days. Prosecutors Mark Laws and Lisa Lozen present their case. Doctors testify about Kyrie's injuries. Taylor takes the stand. She tells the jury about that night, about trusting Kimora, about finding Kyrie seizing on the floor, about 8 days watching him die. The defense argues it was an accident, that Kimora lost control, but didn't mean to kill him. The jury doesn't buy it. On July 31st, 2025, after just over 2 hours, they return. Guilty. First-degree felony murder. First-degree child abuse. Kimora Hodges, now 24, sits silently. Her fate is sealed. October 2nd, 2025. Taylor, now 22, stands before Judge Drzinski to give her victim impact statement. "I don't have hate in my heart for you," Taylor says, "but I wish you had accountability. Spiritually, you'll never be right again because you won't accept the consequences for what you did." She talks about considering a plea deal, about trying to give Kimora grace. But Kimora never admitted the truth. Judge Drzinski is moved. To stand here and say you have no hate in your heart is remarkable. You're wise beyond your years. The hearing is adjourned due to a procedural issue. On November 4th, 2025, sentencing finally happens. Kimora makes a brief statement hoping the family finds peace. Judge Drzinski delivers a sentence: life without parole for murder, 15 to 40 years for child abuse. Kimora Hodges will never walk free again. Justice, delayed for years, has finally been served. Taylor Starks was 18 years old when she lost her son. She's 22 now. In those 4 years, she's had to grow up in ways no one should have to. She's buried her child. She sat through interrogations, depositions, hearings, and a trial. She's faced a woman who killed Kyrie and somehow found the strength to say, "I don't have hate in my heart for you." That kind of grace is rare, especially from someone so young, especially from someone who's lost so much. She went to trial. She sat through every painful detail. She faced her son's killer in court, and she won. But winning doesn't bring Kyrie back. It doesn't undo the trauma. It doesn't fill the empty space where her son should be. Still, Taylor has chosen to move forward with dignity, with forgiveness, but not forgetfulness, with strength that most people twice her age couldn't muster. The community's response was swift and clear. Roseville Police Chief Mitch Berlin stood by his department's investigation. He defended the detectives who questioned Kimora, even when parts of the confession were later suppressed. The evidence was strong. The case was solid. Justice was served. The system works when the evidence is clear and the truth is undeniable. And then there's the apartment building on Little Mack Avenue, the place where Taylor thought she'd found safety, the place where she met the woman who seemed like a friend, the place where Kyrie spent his last moments alive. It still stands. Other families live there now. But for Taylor, that building will always be a reminder of the worst night of her life. Kyrie Starks would be 4 years old today. He'd be running around, asking endless questions, learning new things every day. He could count to 5 at 22 months old. Imagine what he could do at 4. But we'll never know. That bright, beautiful boy who had his whole life ahead of him was taken by someone who was supposed to protect him. Someone his mother trusted. Someone who lived just one floor up. Taylor said it best during the trial. Kyrie was a beautiful boy. Smart, special, full of potential. And now he's gone. All that's left are memories. Photos. Stories about the toddler who could count to 5. A life frozen at 22 months, never to grow older. Taylor will carry that loss for the rest of her life. But she'll also carry his memory. And she'll make sure the world never forgets what happened to her son. Looking back at this case, the warning signs were there. Kimora's text messages at night showed clear escalation. He's being sneaky. You're too soft on him. I don't want to babysit him anymore. Those weren't just complaints. They were red flags, signs of mounting frustration and anger directed at a toddler. And there was more. Kimora had given up custody of her own daughter to the child's father. That alone suggests someone struggling to handle the responsibilities of motherhood. Someone who might not have been equipped to care for another child. But Taylor didn't know these things. She saw a friendly neighbor, a young mother like herself, someone convenient and trustworthy. That's the danger. Predators don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like the person next door. Taylor's story highlights a painful reality. Young mothers without support systems are vulnerable. When you're 18, working long shifts with no family to help and no money for professional childcare, you do what you have to do. You trust the person upstairs because you don't have other options. And predators know this. They take advantage of that desperation. They offer help, build trust, and then they hurt the people who trusted them most. The lesson here is crucial. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Check in with your children, even the ones too young to speak. Look for changes in behavior. Ask questions. Know who's watching your kids and pay attention to how they talk about them. Frustration is normal. Every caregiver gets frustrated. But when someone starts expressing anger toward a child, when they complain about a toddler being sneaky or label normal kid behavior as a problem, that's a warning sign. And for young parents struggling alone, please reach out. Ask for help. There are resources, organizations, and people who care. You don't have to do it alone, and you don't have to settle for someone just because they're convenient. Through all of this, Taylor Starks has shown incredible strength. She chose forgiveness while still demanding justice. She stood in that courtroom and said, "I don't have hate in my heart for you," even as she held Kimora accountable for murder. That takes a kind of courage most people never have to find. Judge Jasinski said it perfectly. You're wise beyond your years. Taylor's grace in the face of unimaginable grief is a testament to her character. She could have been consumed by hatred. Instead, she chose to move forward with dignity. That doesn't mean she's forgotten. It doesn't mean the pain is gone. But it means she's not letting bitterness destroy her the way violence destroyed her son. Kyrie Starks was 22 months old when he died. He was bright, beautiful, and loved beyond measure. He was taken by someone who should have protected him, someone his mother trusted, someone who lived just one floor away. His memory serves as a reminder of why we must protect the vulnerable, why we must pay attention to warning signs, why we must never take child safety for granted. Kimora Hodges will spend the rest of her life in prison. She'll never walk free. She'll never have the chance to rebuild her life or start over. Justice was served. But justice doesn't bring Kyrie back. For Taylor, there's a lifetime of what-ifs ahead. What if she'd noticed the warning signs? What if she'd chosen a different babysitter? What if she'd been home that night? But those questions have no answers. And the guilt isn't hers to carry. She did what any working mother would do. She trusted someone she thought was a friend. The blame belongs to one person. and that person is behind bars where she belongs. In the end, this is a story about trust broken, innocence stolen, and a mother's love that survives even the darkest betrayal. Rest in peace, Kyrie. You deserve so much more than 22 months. Thank you so much for watching, my wonderful audience. Kindly like and share this video so that these educational video reaches those that needs to listen to it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to True Crime Cave so you don't miss out on the next upload. Stay safe.